Hello, everybody, and welcome back to First Ring Daily, where our national nightmare is finally coming to an end, and 1809 can be downloaded if you're lucky. Paul, before Paul even mutters a word, I want everyone to know going into this podcast, Paul is he's dealing with some internal turmoil, and he.
I asked Brad if he would talk me off of a cliff. I think it's the pertinent conversation that needs to happen. Yeah, I'm gonna reread what I've written and make the appropriate edits and for purposes of civility. But I think it maybe is fair to say that after 6 weeks of abject silence, Microsoft has come out and said exactly the same thing they said 2 years ago when the anniversary update was all screwed up. And nothing has changed. Nothing's ever going to change. And I have serious doubts about the ability of this team to successfully develop software going forward. I just don't trust them. And I don't think they're trustworthy from a software quality perspective. Not as human beings or whatever, but I really feel like they're losing credibility. It's embarrassing.
It was
when you come out after a problem. I'm going to go off the cliff. When you come out after you just completely screwed everything up, release this thing publicly. There's been data loss. You try to minimize the impact that this has had. You can talk about X% of X%, whatever baloney. And then you put up a graph that says, "Look, our quality's gone up. Over time, it's better." No. Nope. No. It's like, Volkswagen was polluting the earth, but they were like, yeah, but our tires are quieter now. Wow. Yeah. You can't trust anything these people tell you. They literally have no idea what they're doing. And somebody needs to just say it plainly. Why would anyone trust them at this point to do anything right?
I tend to agree, in which I don't always agree with everything that you say.
Sure.
But to your point, Microsoft has said very similar, the exact same things. And what happens, at least what happened last time, is they're like, we're going to be more transparent. We're going to make everything great and lovely, and we're going to fix all this. And it's like, great, yes, this is, we're finally there. And then they're real good about it for about 3 months. And then these things just kind of get spaced out a little bit, and then all that
they'll
stuff.
Get out a release that will go great. I mentioned this to you. I spoke with them 2 years ago when they had this problem. You spoke with them this time, kind of off the record conversations. I'm just going to throw a couple of quotes by you. These are some of the phrases I heard in 2016. Super edgy cases. We're putting new systems in place. We're going to catch things across the spectrum as early as possible. These are phrases that were uttered to me after the anniversary update was causing such things as screen freezes, Kindles were rebooting computers. Remember all the stupid stuff that happened back then? There was talk about, one of the things, it's funny, I had forgotten about this. They kind of implicitly blamed the Windows Insider program last time around for some of the problems. Even though they had, in fact, reported every one of the bugs that later were hit out in the public, just like what happened this time. So this is the part I had forgotten. So to further engage this community of insiders, Microsoft had some kind of a plan to gamify the feedback, right? So there's like a feedback hub, and you can upvote and do all this stuff, and like they actually put this stuff in place. Part of their plan to fix the problem was to have the insiders be more engaged. It's like, guys, there's all kinds of problems with the insider program for sure, but them being engaged is not a problem. And the fact that they reported all of the problems ahead of time and they were ignored by Microsoft tells me that the problem isn't the insiders, it's the process, right? It's the system that they have in place to triage bug reports or feedback, whatever you want to call it, and then not act accordingly. And I got to tell you, 2 years later, it's to use the Volkswagen example, right? The Volkswagen thing was about 2 years ago. I bet it would be like all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow and there's this big news report like, as it turns out, actually, They put this filter on the engine so that the gasoline cars put out as much pollution as the old diesel cars. They got right back to square one. They didn't have to do it, but they did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I'm sorry.
Are you feeling better?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not cathartic. No. The problem is they're going to stand up somewhere. They're going to put up posts. They're going to publicly say there's nothing to see here. And if there's nothing to see here, why did you delay the release of a major Windows 10 version for 6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to right. I was going to say the proof is going to be in
nowhere to go. I'm sorry.
No, the proof is going to be in the pudding, right? It's going to be when they start shipping updates. They did say that this update rollout, apparently with 1803, they just dropped a brick on the accelerator and just said, heave ho, everyone download it as fast as you can. With this one, they're going to be taking a little bit more measured approach. And so previously, you used to be able to just go with 1803. I think if you went and did check for updates, you would automatically get 1809 because you were.
We all said was a terrible mistake.
Yeah, that will not be the case with this update. You can go check for updates, and if your device is known to be a good configuration, then essentially you're kind of playing the lottery at that point, and then a small percentage of those people hitting check for updates will actually get the release.
Fred, this is the system that's always been in place.
I know.
All they've done is gone back to what they were doing before. In fact, one of the things they bragged about with the anniversary update was that because this system was in place, it helped them catch the problems early, and they were able to siphon off the downloads until they could get ahead of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they used the term paused the release, was how they said it.
Yeah.
Which is what they described this delay as, a pause. Just like the Korean War was a police action. It was a pause. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I
don't know where you're pulling these analogies out of today, but they are, wow.
Yep. Volkswagen, the Korean War. What else could we compare this thing to? Dieselgate.
Now I'm a little befuddled over what the hell we're actually talking about. But anyway, so if you've been missing out on 1809 and all the features that it doesn't really have, you can go grab that now and hopefully not delete anything. It's going to be, if this thing comes out and there's even one icon out of place, people are going to lose their mind.
Well, I was just going to compare it to nationalism and the destruction of democracy, but let's just say that, no, but I believe it is not just the right, but the requirement of anyone who believes themselves to be part of this community to hold these people responsible for what they do wrong.
Yep.
I had this conversation years and years ago, and by years, probably decades ago, and it was one of those kind of weird things. I was talking with a group of people, and it suddenly occurred to me that there was a complete misunderstanding of the relationship that they have with Microsoft. That you guys are the customers. You're paying this company, right? You should expect this thing to work and to work properly. That's your right. You're paying for something. If the thing you're paying for isn't delivering what you paid for, complaining about that and is not something to be embarrassed about. It's something you should do. I think their response to this has been incredibly ineffectual and also delayed by about 5 weeks. And the fact that they've remained silent during this entire thing is just the most outrageous, inexcusable act imaginable. And it is the airplane story I told the other day. You know something. You tell us what you know now. Tell us it'll be a couple of weeks. Just set the context. That's all you got to communicate. Simple.
Yep. Microsoft is promising improved communication. They have a long post on how they actually test the software. But clearly, the thing is their testing procedures clearly don't work. At least not very well.
Yep.
So it's great for them to document what they're doing today, but I'm curious what's going to be done for 19H1, 19H2 to avoid the same issue. So
my prediction is that here's another one for you. This will be like, you're going to enjoy this one.
Oh, great.
This would be like eating a hamburger at Jack in the Box after they had that little poisoning problem. See, the next one's going to go great. After that, all bets are off because this is just going to keep happening. Yeah.
And you know how much I like hamburgers.
The safest place to eat on earth was Jack in the Box after that happened because, let's face it, they were really paying attention.
Well, the problem was you could say that about Chipotle too, and then Chipotle had about 3 incidents of salmonella after the first salmonella.
Yeah, are they on Microsoft 365? That might explain it. Sorry, I'm a little bitter today.
Wow. Did you drink some prune juice instead of your coffee?
No, I sort of feel like there was an appropriate response, but that there was also an appropriate time for that response. Mm-hmm. And this isn't it, and this isn't the time, and it's too late. And I don't know. I find this to be very upsetting. And the sheer similarity, almost identical nature of this response to what happened 2 years ago. It's like the Cortana thing we were talking about. A couple of CSs, ago, you and I went and talked to Ryan Gavin. I keep remembering his name for some reason. And, we've walked away thinking, wow, adults are in charge here. They're going to figure out Cortana. This is good news. I wrote a big article about it. It's good for them. And then a year goes by and nothing happens. And then I don't know if it was NeoWin or some other publication published exactly the same story. Like a year later, they had a conversation with some other guy because I think Ryan had moved on by then. And it's like, and you have that moment of realization that nothing is going to change.
Yep.
It's just not going to change. And I feel this one. Windows is my professional life in many ways. Yeah. I mean, I've been writing about this for over 20 years. Well over almost 25 years. And to see it treated so shabbily is hard for me. And whether it's the Terry stuff or this inanity or Windows as a service that never works and whatever, Windows 10S was like this for me. It's like, seriously, like how many times are you going to punch this thing in the face? It's frustrating.
Yeah, one of the other, in this deep dive blog post that they released is, which I don't think is new, 700 million active users of Windows 10. That's not the big surprise. Microsoft actually gave us some other numbers that include 16 million unique hardware and driver combinations and 35 million application titles with greater than 175 million application versions for Windows 10.
So I'm going back to my notes right now because that thing you just said factored very highly into my conversation from 2 years ago with Microsoft when they talked about, these are from my notes, so it might be a little rough. The PC ecosystem is so diverse. It's a strength, but it's also a challenge. Most things work quite well, and we can hit levels of quality, dial up the pace where we do upgrades, blah, blah, blah. But the sheer diversity of the ecosystem makes it hard to put out these releases. That's what they said 2 years ago. So now they're putting a number on. It's like the idea is like, look, guys, what do you think's going to happen? Like, there's all this crap out there in the world. Enough. like this is just an excuse now. The PC ecosystem being diverse is not new,
right?
And it's not news. So they put a number on it, and some sap's going to read that and be like, "Oh, no other company could do what Microsoft's doing. Apple couldn't do it, And yeah, okay, maybe. But 30 years ago, Microsoft made its bed. It's been sleeping in it ever since. This is the dual-edged, edged sword of the PC industry. Yeah, diversity. Yep, it's good and bad. We get it. In 2018, they can't patch their own system. Here's an idea. Maybe don't release it so often. Just a thought.
Has anyone said that before?
I don't know. It seems it's a new idea. I'm working on it in my head a little bit, but maybe they do this too much. Maybe, Brad, and seriously, I know you're sitting down, but brace yourself. Maybe Windows isn't a service. Because, when you have a service, there's only one. There's one version of it, and you can update it in the cloud. The PC, what was it, 16 million different hardware configurations?
Yeah.
I have 15 million of them here in my office. I mean, what? Maybe you can't update a thing like that the way they're doing it. Maybe this system does not make sense.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I'm just opening that conversation.
Sure. Well, I mean, they could put it right next to the glowing success of OneCore and just write off a whole decade.
Right. It's funny. So OneCore is something that comes up in your book, obviously, but just for the purposes of the audience. It's interesting to me how many things you've re-entered into my mind that I've kind of forgotten about.
Sure.
Like the burning issue of the day, like the genius of OneCore. Which, speaking of diverse ecosystems, it's like 99% of everything we do is going to be a PC, but we're going to adapt this system so it runs on this 17 other devices and this other 1%. And did that cause some problems? It's one of those ideas like, you're like, we're going to have one platform. And people are like, that makes total sense. And it's like, no, it doesn't.
It really doesn't. Like thinking about it now, because doing some rough math, there's going to be 1 billion PCs running Windows 10 in about 15, 16 months. Great. But just whatever, take that at face value. And then they adapted Windows 10 to run on an Xbox, which will have 30 million.
30 million?
Worth it.
What's that? Is that 0.3%?
Yeah. Well, the brilliance of it
I'm bad at math.
The brilliance of it is they slowed down the entire development of Windows 10 to support this for... Yeah. Oh,
they may have irrevocably harmed Windows Phone by doing this, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, three times for Windows.
Yeah, but I mean, in this particular case, yes, it wasn't the. I'm pleased. There are so many arrows in this body, you can't even see it anymore. But I mean, but this is, this was one of those. I don't remember which one it was. How could I remember anymore? But by switching the underlying platform on Windows Phone so many times, this might have been the third one or whatever. I think there were a lot of developers who were like, okay, I give up. Enough. And then you go down that path. I don't want to ruin the book. This is all in the book. You know what? Read the book. It's awesome. It covers this in great detail. I'm not going to go any further because there's a lot more to it, and it's fresh in my mind because, I just read it. But I've forgotten all about OneCore. And you read this thing and you're like, and still out there in the world, there are these like kind of blogger kids who are like getting excited about the next version of OneCore, like Windows Core or whatever it is. Like this is going to be it. Multi-hinge devices. Oh my God. It's like, guys, grow up. It's no.
And if you want to know when that multi-hinge device is going to ship, buy the book and skip to the last chapter.
Right.
That wasn't really a joke. It's actually in there. So buy the book and look at the last chapter.
I haven't gotten to the last chapter yet.
You'll love it. It's got.
Don't ruin the ending, Brad.
Well, the ending is going to be
to see where this crazy little company from the Pacific Northwest ends up.
Well, the ending of the book, Paul, is going to be me committing suicide to 2 shots in the back of a head in a taxi. That's.
I told you many, many years ago, I broke this story. Microsoft had hired a company called Mainsoft, which was in Israel, to work on a Linux version of Microsoft Office just in case. And I happened to be there on an unrelated work trip, and I got to interview 2 of these guys. And so I wrote about it. Now, this product never came out, obviously, but Linux never took out on the desktop. And but it was a very abrupt and very early example of me like feeling like I'm like involved in Watergate or something. And like I remember I came downstairs and I told this is 2 houses ago, our first house in Dedham, and I told my wife, I was like, if you see a red dot come through the window and train itself on me, please let me know because I may not be around much longer. Yeah, I was like, this is like state secret stuff,
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. That book should hopefully be out at, I think, the 29th, I think is when it's going to ship, maybe.
It's going to be a race to the finish line for sure, but mostly because I'm holding it up. But
you're almost done.
I got a couple of chapters done this morning.
I hope
to get a couple more. So I'm getting there. I think I'm on 22, maybe 23. I don't know.
Oh, I will look in real time because
I'm up. I think I did 20, 21, maybe 22. I don't remember.
Yeah, you've finished, it looks like 22, so you've got 23 through 26, so about 4 chapters left plus chapter 5.
Oh, chapter 5, yes. So I forget chapter 5. What is chapter 5? What did I skip?
But that's unveiling of the first Surface. the actual keynote.
Huh. I feel like I didn't skip that, but all right, I'll look at it.
Yep. You got anything else on this happy, cheerful episode, Paul?
No, I mean, I think that's going to consume me for the day. I did put up an editorial for premium folks about how MacBook Air impacts Surface Laptop. I think in a very favorable way, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the concept there is simply that, Microsoft, by virtue of doing nothing, should have been kind of an also-ran here, but Apple, by doing such a basic upgrade of this once innovative system, has kind of put Microsoft. All of a sudden, Surface Laptop looks really good by comparison.
It does. I mean,
and save money, more powerful processor, better battery life, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you
Plus,
looked at,
you're probably going to get 1809 sometime now.
Not on the MacBook Air though.
No, well, not unless you install like Boot Camp, I guess.
Yeah, the interesting thing is if you looked at the old MacBook Air and said, hey, what's the minimum we can do to update this to make it awesome? Mm-hmm. They did absolutely that. They did nothing else. They didn't stretch the imagination in any capacity. So. Yeah,
right. Except they kind of did less.
Yeah, well, I guess it's true.
Depending on how you look at it. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so go read that post. And what is today, Tuesday? Today's Tuesday.
Yeah. Tuesday, yep.
All right.
Patch Tuesday.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that wraps it up for today. Hopefully you're in a better mood now because we all aren't. And we will see you back here tomorrow.